Hello and welcome to the Collegian Football Podcast. I'm Alexis Yoder alongside Justin Morganstein. We are excited to have a special guest on the podcast today, 2005 consensus All-American at Penn State, who also had a 12-year NFL career with the Kansas City Chiefs that included 5 Pro Bowl appearances, Tamba Hali. Tamba, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good. Welcome to the show, Tamba.
Very nice.
So I wanted to start with something. You just, I saw recently had a 1-day contract to, finish up officially your NFL career with the Chiefs. That's something, that, always happens to players. I feel like that have a really big impact with one organization and then, end their career in that way. What was that whole day like? And, having a whole day within an organization dedicated to you?
It was pretty cool for the kids. I did the game for about 4 years now. But I had to make it official and at least retire with the Chiefs. Guys like me, we really don't take heed that you have to do, that. You have to get up and actually do a signing of a contract. I was just content with just being done playing, but I was advised that, it would be wise to retire with the. And my family enjoyed it. The kids enjoyed it. My wife enjoyed it. Just being around, seeing old friends, old people that I basically worked with for over 12 years. Saw every day. Probably saw more than I saw my family. It was, reminiscent, but it was a gratifying feeling.
Tamba, we talked a little bit about how you came to the States from Liberia. How was your transition to the United States and getting involved in football?
Well, I came 94, and the biggest thing that I want to feel like was the hindrance in my development was I couldn't read and write. In the 5th grade, I was just placed in the 5th grade, and I couldn't read and write. It took time. And as far as football go, it was more like a gift because I didn't grow up watching it. I was a big basketball, soccer type guy, and but being athletic, my coach from middle school, who was the defensive coordinator, just said, when you get to the high school, you should play. And I just played. I enjoyed the game. It didn't require much, but having the will to get to the quarterback. And I played, and I did all right. Being able to get to Penn State, that's all right, right?
So I want to ask with that, is there a moment where, early in your football career, you're like, all right, this is real now. This is full contact, tackle football. And I don't know if I was ready for this, or was there a specific moment that, you're welcome to football moment, I guess?
I know. I mean, it was just, I was always I was skinny, but I was a big guy. And I kind of like banging heads, it was a challenge for me, just, being in shape and I love competing. So I had a drive. To answer your question, I want to say in college, it's a wake up call because of the conditioning that we go through. When I got there, I threw up from just the lift, the lift and the run. Every guy kind of throw up. During the time I was there, we had a trainer named JT. He's a military kind of guy. So our workouts were strenuous. So yeah, I want to say that was more like a wake up call. This is real. You're either going to do it or you're just not. And, we have morning workouts at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're really running every 45 seconds is a turnaround. We're back at it to get things done. So I think college was to answer your question, really define that. If you want to play this game, you have to be able to get through this phase.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, obviously, State College is a pretty long way from Liberia. And, just your whole upbringing. What was something, that drew you to Penn State during your recruiting process and ultimately led to you deciding to, spend your time in State College?
I fell in love with the campus. It's a beautiful campus. The facility was top notch at the time I was there. The Lash building is right there, right beside is the field up to not even far, but Haluba Hall. We got an indoor facility. You do everything in one building. As far as education wise, I had a chance to kind of try to figure out my way in where I wanted to go. And then we have first dibs or first dabs. So we were the first one to choose, what do you call it? Tutors. So if I struggle in any course, I kind of got like an honor student that I was sitting with that was helping me understand, whatever I wasn't getting. So the help, the stadium was huge. I mean, I had never seen anything like that in my life. So just being able to walk into a stadium like that was, whoa, like I'm going to play in front of a lot of people. And, Joe Paterno was a huge decision to play for him. The way he ran the organization, it wasn't like, oh, we were going to bribe you to come here. It was like, you either love football, you're going to come here and you're going to do the right thing, or you're not coming. And he was very frank about it. And yeah, I kind of fell in love with, everything I just said, and it was an easy decision.
You talked about Joe Pa for a second. I'm interested to hear, you had two pretty polarizing coaches, in your football career between Joe Paterno and Andy Reid. Is there any comparison between those two guys, or are they just completely different?
No, they're very similar in the style of coaching. Joe, the week practice is hard. Joe is a talker, so he's going to do talking during the week. So is coach. I want to say the difference with Andy is dealing with men. So the way he relates to us is a little different. And our team is not as big as we only have 45 guys on the team playing every Sunday. So, the guys who's supposed to get things done, the leaders on the team, we already know he has a committee. With Joe knew that we were going to make mistakes as young guys. And he really did his due diligence to bring us into his office, bring us into his home, talk to us so we can understand, what's going on in our life at the time. I got in trouble a few times. Joe brought me in and just kind of talked to me about it and even talked to the seniors about it. But as far as coaching style, it's that East Coast style. Like it's hard-nosed football. Andy was down there in Philly for a long time, so it's just hard football. If you play for Andy, conditionings are hard. You lifting in the weight room. When I got there, it wasn't like that in the NFL. People kind of lally-gagged their way around in the locker room and in the weight room, and wasn't really in shape. But once Andy came around, it was like you had to kind of buckle down. Like you gotta, you gotta work for it. It's not gonna just be handed to you. Yeah, similar style though.
But speaking of your Penn State career, I want to focus on that 2005 season. Penn State got that first ever whiteout win, the second year that they introduced the quote unquote whiteout, and you had one of the most iconic plays in program history that's featured in, that pump up video every Saturday in Beaver Stadium when you had that game clinching strip sack against Ohio State, and you finished it off with an Orange Bowl win. Can you tell us a little bit about that 2005 season and what that iconic season meant to you?
To begin with, it was one of the toughest time in, I think, our program history, because prior to that season, we had two of the worst seasons in the history. And I was, from my sophomore to senior year, I was already like a veteran player on the team. Like, I had to become a leader, and it was pretty rough because people remember, the highlights of the season, which, like you're saying, the Ohio State game. But, how about the Northwestern game where, we're kind of down and it's like 4th and 15. And if we don't complete the first down, we don't even win. We don't even go on this ride. And that kind of turned the season around, because we were down in Northwestern, and somehow we found a way to come back. And yeah, I mean, just to go and win the Big Ten that year, and play Bobby Bowden in 3, overtime, win Florida State. Big programs are going at each other. It's a really, looking back, it's like no other team has conquered that yet for a while. So it's almost still sitting. But I mean, it means a lot, because I mean, the guys that played in that game, from our quarterback, Michael Robinson, AZ, if I can remember, Ethan, Jay Al. I mean, so many guys that I played with, we kind of look back and realize, like, we started something, and we felt like we could have been in the national game. But even though, again, we can talk about being cheated at Michigan, this 2 second that they have to put back on. But yeah, it's one of those seasons that obviously we'll always remember. The Ohio State play, it's like a blessing, like to be in a position to make a play and for it to be highlighted the way it was. Our guys played well the entire night, and it's almost like no letting down. That was kind of the attitude. You can hear my kids in the background. I'm kind of old now.
So we talked about the whiteout just now, and this year there seems to be, a lot of debate between what the whiteout game should be. And, there's a big Auburn game at home. They haven't done an SEC team for that in a while. I mean, or you could go with the classic Big Ten in Michigan. We even wrote columns about it between us on the Collegian football staff. What would you make as the whiteout this year, Auburn or Michigan?
Of course, it has to be Michigan and be Auburn. It has to be someone within the conference.
I am in complete agreement with that. That's what I argued. But you can't beat the September 18th weather for a whiteout. It's going to should be prime time, and it's a 7:30 game. So, but I have a feeling that they might do both.
Well, yeah, I mean, Penn State can't fall short to whiteouts. I mean, we obviously can come through with 2 different whiteout games if that need be. But no, Auburn played in the national game this year. Is that? No, they lost before it, right?
Yeah, no, Auburn, the national championship, that was Alabama, and it was Ohio State. But yeah. I mean, they're bringing back some good players, and I don't think Penn State's played an SEC team at home since that Alabama game, I think in the early 2000s. So I mean, either one I think is you could pick. I'm sure they're going to be hyped.
Yeah, it's huge. It's a national game. Of course, we white out that one and then make sure we white out the Michigan. Michigan always, Michigan is like the Achilles heel. We got to make sure we put a dagger into these guys,
Do you have a memory, say, from the Michigan-Penn State rivalry while you were a part of it?
Yeah, I only got to play twice. The first time was when we went down. I was a freshman. I believe we went down to Michigan, and I mean, we were doing pretty well. And it's like similar things. Like, this is when Joe had to come through with the instant replay. Like, we have to do instant replay, and Tony Johnson has scored, I think, had a good catch. I don't know if he has scored, but then the ref said he was out of bounds. And then, the following year, playing against Chad Henne and his boys, the game is close. And we're pretty much going to win that game. And for some reason, you can see Lloyd Carr just like on the sideline, like, let's get some time back on the clock. We're going to blame Alan Zamitis for the rest of his life because we were playing man and he was playing zone. So, I think Manningham caught the ball in the end zone. Yeah. But it's really a good rivalry, like over the years to play. There's two powerhouses going at it.
So you just mentioned a lot of your former teammates in the last couple minutes. Do any of your former teammates stick out as like you loved your time spent playing with them? Like, do you have a favorite teammate per se that you spent your years with at Penn State?
Yeah, Michael Robinson was one of those guys. Like, he was definitely a leader on the team. We'll all hang out together. We'll all like do things together, go out together, party together. We both had communication classes together. So Mike was cool. Another guy, Alan Zamitis, for sure. We hung out together. It seems like all those guys who were like senior. I was a redshirt freshman, so I actually played. So I don't know. Yeah, so I played with those guys ahead of me. So most of those guys kind of just pulled together and hung out together. Scott Paxton, for sure. I enjoyed playing with him. I mean, one of the biggest thighs you ever seen, just so muscular and just, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had some cool. We got Terrell, we got Elijah, we got a bunch of guys. Jay Alford, being from New Jersey, we got in a fight and everything. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing gonna be like college. I even bought a place. I just sold it. I always had a place up in State College. I just sold it this year. I always used to come back and train with the team, but I always wanted to come back and relive like this lifestyle that you had in college. And you can never, I mean, if you get it one time and then that's it. So you have to enjoy your time while you're there.
Yeah, and I know a lot of Penn State football fans are very excited about the announcement the university made yesterday that all athletics are going to have full capacity this upcoming fall and the rest of the year. Some people would say that the crowd at Beaver Stadium is almost like the 12th man. It really plays a factor in how the team performs. Could you attest to that and what the energy is like in Beaver Stadium, every Saturday that you got to play there?
Yeah, so we got our guys there, whether it's noon games or it's night games, these guys are on the weekend, so they're wasted. Stadium is ready. Our student section is ready to be loud. And I mean, while you're on the field, obviously, when we're on defense, they make it so tough for the opposing team to be able to audible or switch the play somehow. So it is like a 12th man. It becomes so loud that whatever you called in the huddle, you must run it. And if we're doing film study, we'll be able to, dissect everything you come out with. Like, oh, you're going to run this play. You're not going to switch out of it. You're going to run this play. So yeah, playing in Beaver Stadium, I remember my last game, I just had to play as much as I just placed, just went off because I knew I would never play there. I don't even think they play any other sport in the stadium. So it's almost like, it's very prestige in a way because it's like, yeah, like you don't have NFL games. You don't have any other things happen in the stadium except, Penn State football. So, but yeah, our crowd, our 12th man, we definitely should start calling it that. It's like our 12th man. They really get loud in there, 110,000 screaming. It must have a record. There must be a record. I know here in Kansas City, we have a record for the loudest in the world. So,
Penn State could compete with that. I believe we can. Last question I have for you, Tamba, is obviously the last year and a half has been just crazy in every single way possible. It really in the past few weeks, it seems like everything's starting, at least with sports, just to get back to, normal. And not just with football, but, with basketball playoffs, hockey, all that. What does that mean for these athletes? And, how does that push them even more?
Well, it's always about the fans. Of course, we enjoy training and getting ready for our games. We can do it without the fans because there are days we go without fans. But to get a chance to play in front of a crowd, to get a chance to, just have that chemistry with the fans, it means a lot because it shows that these guys have been working, and it brings best out of the player. The fans actually do. Like, you got someone looking at you like, are you really that good? Whatever they talk about in the paper, are you really what they say? And then these guys come out to see it. So for me as a player, I know anytime I walked out in that stadium, I don't care if it was opposing team or our fans, I just wanted to play even better than what I have practiced. So it kind of brings the best out of a player. Yeah.
I will say that, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, but Penn State's Nittanyville student section is the reigning champions for the Taco Bell Fiesta Best Student Section contest. So, Tamba, I think you're right on that one. I think the students have definitely won a prize, if that's what you were referring to within Kansas City. I think Penn State students definitely take the cake on that one.
Yeah. I have to say that for college is different because you guys are coming to the game to enjoy, just to like be part of something for a little bit of time, and NFL, like, these guys are year in, year out. But it's like, I'm going to school with people who I might be working with later on in the real world, and they're in the stands and going crazy, and it's like, no, there's nothing like it. It's especially Penn State for sure.
Will we be able to find you at a Penn State football game soon, now that it's open again?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my wife and I and our kids, our 3 boys, will actually be there this weekend from Friday to Sunday. I think they have a bunch of us coming in. It's like alumni weekend, something like that. They're trying to bring some money back into the city. So we get it. We're gonna come in. We're gonna come in with, have breakfast with some people, play golf, So we'll be there. But then during the year, for sure, we're gonna come down and catch some games.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to do it for this installment of the Collegian Football Podcast. For Justin and me, Alexis, thanks, Tamba, for taking time out of your day to talk some football with us.
Alexis, Justin, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Please make me look good, make me look good.
No, you won't need any help there. You're popping.
Awesome.
Thank you, Tombo. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.